Something happened inside Iran today that is more dangerous than any missile strike, any drone attack, or any bombing raid in this entire war. Iran's president went on live television and apologized to the Gulf states for the missiles and drones hitting their cities. He ordered the military to stop attacking neighboring countries. And within hours, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps launched fresh strikes on Dubai Airport and the U.S. Fifth Fleet headquarters in Bahrain. The president said, "Stop." The IRGC said no. That's not a policy disagreement. That's not a miscommunication. That is a regime splitting apart in the middle of the biggest war in the Middle East in decades. Tonight on the Ops Room, I'm going to walk you through exactly what happened, what Pezeshkian said, how the IRGC responded, what the hardliners are threatening, why this power struggle is more dangerous than any bomb, and what it means for every country in the Gulf that just heard an apology and an explosion on the same day. This is the story nobody else is breaking down properly. Let's get into it. Here's the sequence of events, and I want you to pay attention to the timeline because the timeline tells you everything. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian appeared on state television and delivered what can only be described as an extraordinary statement. In the middle of a war, with American and Israeli bombs falling on Iranian soil daily, the President of the Islamic Republic apologized to Iran's neighbors. He acknowledged that Iranian retaliatory strikes had struck Gulf countries, countries that did not attack Iran, countries that are not at war with Iran, countries that are being hit simply because they host American military bases or have economic relationships with Washington, and he ordered Iran's armed forces to halt all attacks on neighboring countries, unless those countries actively allow their territory to be used as a launch pad for strikes against Iran. Now think about what that means. The President of Iran, on national television, in front of the entire world, essentially admitted that his own military has been hitting countries it shouldn't be hitting. He admitted the attacks were wrong, and he issued a direct order to stop. In a normal country, that would be the end of it. The commander gives an order, the military follows it. But Iran is not a normal country, and what happened next proved it. Within hours of Pezeshkian's televised apology, the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, announced fresh military strikes. Not against Israel, not against American warships in open water, against Dubai Airport, one of the busiest aviation hubs on Earth, in the United Arab Emirates, a Gulf state, and against Juffair base in Bahrain, the headquarters of the United States Fifth Fleet, located in a tiny island nation of 1.5 million people that has already intercepted 114 missiles and 190 drones since this war began. The president said, "Stop." The IRGC hit Dubai Airport and a base in Bahrain on the same day, within hours. And then came the official statement from the Khatam Al-Anbiya Central Headquarters, the command center that coordinates all of Iran's military operations across every branch, including the IRGC. Their statement was a direct repudiation of the president. They said, quote, "Every point that serves as the origin of aggression against Iran is a legitimate target." Read that again. Every point that serves as the origin of aggression. That means any country hosting U.S. military bases, any country allowing American aircraft to use their airspace, any country providing logistical support, intelligence sharing or refueling. Saudi Arabia, legitimate target. The UAE, legitimate target. Qatar, legitimate target. Bahrain, legitimate target. Kuwait, legitimate target. Oman, legitimate target. The IRGC just told the world that the president's apology means nothing, and they will hit whoever they want, whenever they want, for whatever reason they decide constitutes origin of aggression. And they weren't alone. Iran's Judiciary Chief Mohseni-Ejei immediately backed the IRGC. This is significant because Mohseni-Ejei isn't just a judge. He's a member of Iran's powerful leadership council, the inner circle that governs the country, especially now that the supreme leader is either dead or incapacitated. Mohseni-Ejei declared that, quote, "Intense attacks will continue. Not might continue, will continue." He sided with the IRGC against the elected president of his own country on live television during a war. And then the hardliners in parliament went even further. Lawmakers are now openly threatening to remove Pezeshkian from office. They're calling him politically incompetent. Let that phrase sink in. The president tried to de-escalate, tried to protect Gulf states from Iranian attacks, tried to prevent the war from spreading further, and his own parliament is calling him incompetent for it. Former lawmaker Jalal Rashidi Kuchi issued a public statement that was essentially a political execution. He said, quote, "An apology is made when a mistake has occurred. We made no mistake. Your message showed no sign of authority." No sign of authority. That's a lawmaker telling the president of Iran, to his face in public, that he has no power, that his words carry no weight, that his orders don't matter. Some lawmakers are going even further. They're urging the Assembly of Experts, the 88-member body that has the constitutional authority to appoint and remove Iran's supreme leader, to quickly name a successor to Mojtaba Khamenei. Because right now, the biggest question in Iranian politics isn't whether to fight or negotiate. It's whether anyone is actually in charge. Let me explain why this matters so much. Not just for Iran, but for every country within range of an Iranian missile. Iran's government has a split power structure. On one side, you have the elected government, the president, the foreign minister, the parliament. On the other side, you have the supreme leader and the IRGC, the unelected military religious power structure that controls Iran's armed forces, nuclear program, missile arsenal, and proxy networks across the Middle East. In theory, the supreme leader sits above both sides. He's the ultimate authority. He resolves disputes. He sets direction. He decides war and peace. But Iran doesn't have a functioning supreme leader right now. Mojtaba Khamenei, if he's even alive, is wounded, disfigured, hiding underground, unable to appear in public. Trump says he might be dead. The Pentagon says he's highly likely disfigured. Iran's own ambassador confirmed severe injuries to his legs, hands, and arms. He hasn't shown his face in over 2 weeks. His only communication was a written statement read by someone else on television. A $10 million American bounty is active for information on his location. Without a supreme leader to mediate, the split between Iran's elected government and the IRGC has blown wide open. And in that split, the IRGC is clearly winning. They have the guns, they have the missiles, they have the drones, they have the Revolutionary Guard ground forces, the Quds Force operating proxy armies across 5 countries, the naval forces in the Persian Gulf, the ballistic missile batteries aimed at every capital in the region. The president has a podium and a television camera. That's it. Pezeshkian was elected in 2024 as a relative moderate, at least by Iranian standards. He was supposed to represent the faction that wanted to engage with the world, reduce tensions, improve the economy. But in wartime, moderates don't control armies, generals do. And Iran's generals have made their position crystal clear. The war continues, the attacks continue, and the president's apology is irrelevant. Now let's look at this from the Gulf states' perspective, because they just experienced something absolutely surreal. In the morning, they heard the president of Iran apologize to them on television. By the afternoon, Iranian missiles and drones were hitting their airports and military bases. If you're the ruler of Bahrain or the UAE, what do you do with that information? The Iranian president says sorry, and hours later your airport gets hit. Do you accept the apology? Do you open diplomatic channels with Pezeshkian? Or do you realize that the man apologizing has no power to stop the attacks, making his words completely meaningless? This is the worst possible outcome for Gulf security, because it means there is no one in Iran to negotiate with. The president wants to talk, but can't control the military. The supreme leader is missing or dead. The IRGC answers to no one. And the hardliners in parliament want to remove the only person in the government who's trying to de-escalate. Gulf states have already been furious about being dragged into this war. Regional sources described mounting resentment at being, quote, drawn into a war they neither initiated nor endorsed. Prominent Emirati businessman Khatam Al-Anbiya publicly demanded answers about whether the U.S. considered regional consequences before launching strikes on Iran. Even Hamas, Iran's own ally, told Iran to stop targeting neighboring countries. And now they've watched Iran's president try to protect them and get overruled by his own military in real time. The message to Riyadh, Abu Dhabi, Doha, Manama, And Kuwait City is unmistakable. Nobody in Tehran can guarantee your safety. Not the president, not the foreign minister, not the diplomats. The IRGC does what it wants. Bahrain has intercepted over 300 projectiles since February 28th. Saudi Arabia shoots down dozens of drones weekly over the eastern province, where Saudi Aramco's most critical infrastructure sits. Qatar evacuated neighborhoods in Doha after missiles were intercepted over the capital. The UAE confirmed Iranian strikes on Dubai International Airport and hotels and arrested 45 people for filming the damage. A drone killed 2 Indian nationals in Oman. These are countries being attacked daily by a military that their own president cannot control. And this power struggle has implications far beyond the Gulf. Because the IRGC isn't just fighting in the Persian Gulf, they're running proxy operations across the entire region. Hezbollah in Lebanon is still firing rockets into Israel and bracing for the largest Israeli ground invasion since 2006. Hamas in Gaza is under continued Israeli bombardment. The Houthis in Yemen have been launching attacks on Red Sea shipping. Iraqi militias affiliated with the IRGC struck the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad and NATO headquarters in the Green Zone. All of these proxy forces take their direction from the IRGC, not from President Pezeshkian. So, when the IRGC publicly defies the president and declares that every point that serves as the origin of aggression is a legitimate target, that order doesn't just apply to IRGC missile batteries inside Iran. It applies to every proxy force in every country across the Middle East. Hezbollah keeps fighting. Iraqi militias keep attacking U.S. positions. Houthi operations continue. The entire axis of resistance takes its orders from the Revolutionary Guard, and the Revolutionary Guard just told the world the president's ceasefire order is garbage. Meanwhile, the broader war continues accelerating. The U.S. obliterated more than 90 military targets on Karg Island, Iran's crown jewel handling 90% of oil exports. Trump said he might bomb it again, just for fun. He spared the oil terminals but warned he'd reconsider if the Strait of Hormuz isn't opened. 2,500 Marines aboard the USS Tripoli are racing to the Gulf, with BBC reporting a possible amphibious landing on Karg Island. THAAD batteries are being relocated from South Korea. 10,000 AI-powered drones are deployed across the theater. Over 15,000 combined U.S. and Israeli targets have been struck inside Iran. Trump himself confirmed that Iran wants a deal, and he rejected it. He said, "Iran wants to make a deal, and I don't want to make it because the terms aren't good enough yet." He wants complete nuclear disarmament, missile program destruction, and proxy network dismantlement. Conditions Iran has refused for 2 decades. But here's the devastating irony. Even if Iran wanted to accept Trump's terms, even if Pezeshkian personally agreed to every American condition, he doesn't have the power to deliver. He can't order the IRGC to disarm. He can't shut down the nuclear program. That's under the supreme leader's authority. He can't cut off Hezbollah or the Houthis. Those relationships are controlled by the Quds force. The president who wants peace can't deliver peace, and the military that can deliver peace doesn't want it. This is the most dangerous moment of the entire war, not because of what's happening on the battlefield, but because of what's happening inside Tehran. A regime fracturing under pressure, a president being overruled by his own generals, hardliners threatening to remove the only moderate voice in government, a supreme leader who may be dead, an IRGC operating without political oversight, and a parliament pushing for even more aggressive leadership at exactly the moment when de-escalation is the only thing standing between the region and total catastrophe. Iran's president apologized to the Gulf states today. The IRGC answered his apology with missiles, and tonight, every Gulf capital is going to sleep knowing that the one person in Iran who tried to protect them has no power to do so. The generals are in charge, the moderates are being silenced, and the war machine keeps running, with nobody's hand on the brake. This is the Ops Room. Subscribe, hit the bell, share this video, because what's happening inside Iran right now is more dangerous than any bomb in this war. The regime is splitting apart, and when regimes split during wars, unpredictable things happen. I'll see you in the next one.